and welcome to India Tonight. I'm Shabani Gharat. The US and Iran held indirect technical talks in Doha, with Pakistan and Qatar playing the mediators. Reports state that the talks focused on Strait of Hormuz, management of Iranian frozen assets, and denuclearization of Iran. Now, according to Trump, the talks are going very well and Iran's denuclearization is going well. Listen into what Trump said.
As far as things are going, the denuclearization of Iran is moving along well. They've had very good meetings, and we'll see. We hit them very hard for 3 nights, as you know, but we're getting along very well. So I call it the denuclearization, and it's all taking place. It's all going well. The stock market is setting records virtually every day. The oil price is way down. We're down at 68. I see it hit 68 today. That's lower than when I started the, I guess you could call it an attack on Iran so that they never have a nuclear weapon. So the oil price is now lower. The retail prices, the gasoline is coming down rapidly.
So denuclearization, Strait of Hormuz and the Iranian assets will be on the discussion table as the talks go on in Doha. To discuss this, we are now joined in by Dr. Shishir Priyadarshi, President, Chintan Research Foundation. Veena Sikri, she is former High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh, and Ambassador K.P. Fabian, he's a professor of symbiosis. Quickly over to you, Mr. Priyadarshi. Just the word and statement coming in from President Donald Trump, and he is claiming that, you know, the denuclearization talks are going well. Now, these are some of the claims that were also made in the past. Tell us, how much do we believe and what will happen at these particular discussions?
Look, thank you for having me on your program. But just the fact that President Trump has issued a positive statement, I think that by itself augurs well for these indirect talks in Doha. You know, with the kind of increasingly volatile region that West Asia has become, I think every channel of communication matters. So to that extent, if Doha can reduce the risk of miscalculation, perhaps create space for incremental confidence building, and most importantly, keep both sides engaged, even if it is indirectly, it will have served an important strategic purpose. I think the second really good thing is, it is not creating the kind of headlines, the Doha talks, that the Swiss talks had created. And sometimes in diplomacy, and I have 2 very senior diplomatic colleagues here, they'll probably vouch for this. In diplomacy, sometimes the absence of headlines is the biggest headline of all. You know, I mean, sometimes not having this splashed all over, the front pages ensures that expectations are lower, and that the world is not just looking at big handshakes and big announcements, but just looking at what can come out of it. Both sides are represented by fairly senior people, though not in the same room. Obviously, you've got Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, who'd also met the Qatari Prime Minister and President yesterday, and you've got Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister, Gharib Abadi, there too. So even if we can move incrementally, I think Doha would have been a success.
Let's go over to you, Ma'am Veena Sikri. If you can help us understand, the fine diplomatic language over here where, US calls it a negotiation, but Tehran is calling it technical talks going on in Qatar. So help us understand this language.
Thank you. I think that, yes, of course, it's good that the Doha talks have started, but I tend to agree with Iran that these are technical level talks because that was the announcement made at Bergenstock at the Swiss Lake Lucerne resort. The idea was that the MOU has now been signed by both sides and the technical talks will start. The technical talks, I think, are immensely complicated by the fact that they're trying to cover several conflicting and possibly deal-breaking aspects at the same time. One is, of course, the nuclear issue, and President Trump has made a strong statement saying that it's going well. But, this nuclear issue, the nuclear controls that Iran will accept are to be decided within a period of 60 days. And last time, when the JCPOA negotiations took place, and the JCPOA was signed in 2015, the negotiations took 2 years. So whether they'll be able to conclude it in 60 days, this is a question mark. And number one. Number two, the issue of the Strait of Hormuz itself. This is another big deal breaker because Iran and Oman are making statements that they are together going to control the Strait of Hormuz in some way or the other. We do not know the exact details yet. This is in conflict with what President Trump has been saying, that the Strait of Hormuz will be completely free and an open and free international waterway. Now, we know that over the weekend, the hostilities broke out on this very issue. And a ship that tried to change from the normal path agreed to by Iran and follow the southern route via Oman was fired upon. So obviously we know that this is a very fragile situation. I think this is a very big potential deal breaker, the talks on the Strait of Hormuz. The third, of course, which has not been mentioned today, but the issue of Lebanon, which also for Iran is a very big factor. And we know that Israel, although Israel has been nowhere near the talks so far, but Israel has said that they're not going to give up the territory that they occupy in southern Lebanon. So this is another issue that is there. And I do not know that while the Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister is there, whether he has experts on all these three issues under him, and whether on the American side, while Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are there, but I do not know that they're taking part in these technical level talks. They've had a meeting with the Prime Minister there in Qatar, but for these technical level talks, maybe there are other experts. So the structure of the delegations from each side are not very clear. Certainly, if they're going to be detailed technical level talks, you do need experts who would be able to work out language and stuff like that. In diplomacy, that's one very big key to the success of any negotiations is the language. And somebody has to work on those texts. So this is why, while it's good that the technical level talks have started,
Sure.
A, the question of the doubt of 60 days, and B, the varied issues involved and whether within 60 days you're going to get agreement on all these three very sensitive issues.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to note that, Trump didn't make a statement on Hormuz, didn't make a statement on the unfrozen assets, didn't make a statement on Lebanon, but chose to make a statement on the denuclearization and the fact that it is going well. Quickly, your reaction, Ambassador KP Fabian, on, again, the statement made by Trump.
Thank you. Now, I agree almost entirely with what my good friend and colleague Veena has said, and also the previous speaker, Dr. Priyadarshi. Just one of the points before I answer your question. One is that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are not in the talks. So that has been clarified by Qatar. See, let's understand the big picture. Trump declared that Iran had been begging for the talks and that his delegation was leaving or about to leave. Iran sort of said, no, nothing had been agreed to. Okay? So in other words, Trump badly wanted the talks, and therefore it is typical Trump speak. Iran has been begging. Now, coming to the point which you raised, you see, first of all, we should all understand the nuclear problem has been created by Trump. The JCPOA was working very well. If Iran's nuclear activities are subject to IAEA monitoring and inspection, safeguards inspection, well, there is no question of Iran's making a nuclear bomb. Now, for his own reasons, let me explain it in 30 seconds. The candidate Trump was falling in political support in 2016. So a guy called Steve Bannon came to him and said, listen, and he was thinking of withdrawing. No, you don't have to withdraw. I'll give you a formula for recipe for success. And that included attacking, condemning, and ridiculing the JCPOA. So that is that. Now, Trump also speaks of denuclearization. No, Iran has not nuclearized itself. And now he's stopped talking about taking the uranium out. My view is that, and one more thing, 27th of February, in the embassy of Oman in Geneva, Iran has conceded to more than the JCPOA, but Trump chose to ignore it and join Netanyahu when he attacked. So problem has been created by Trump, and Iran will certainly cooperate. They may give a little more than JCPOA, and it's easy for diplomats to find the language which gives the impression that Trump has got much more than Obama.
Right, right. Now, over to you, Dr. Priyadarshi. Help us understand, will these indirect talks lead us somewhere to a breakthrough? Will they lead us to a breakthrough? Because that is what the world is waiting for.
Look, certainly you've got to balance hope against ambition. But one point, just the fact that on one side Jared Kushner and the other side the Deputy Foreign Minister Garib Abadi are there, they're certainly not going to meet each other, certainly. But their presence signifies an important thing. Their presence signifies that both these main protagonists are looking for peace, are looking for a certain amount of stability, obviously, and that's not unsurprising, at their own terms. I mean, both of them are trying to interpret at least, I think, 5 of the points of the Memorandum of Understanding tilted more towards themselves. But the fact that they are there, the fact that they're meeting the highest Qatari leadership and conveying the signal, I think augurs well. You asked a very specific question about Doha being able to, solve, let's say, the gridlock. My own sense is unlikely. I don't think Doha will solve the gridlock, but if Doha or the talks going on in Doha, the technical talks, can prevent the gridlock becoming a crisis, I think it would have really succeeded. Because, when you look back, and there's so many examples, when you look back at history, we often celebrate treaties that have ended wars. We rarely celebrate the conversations that prevent them. And yet those conversations may ultimately save more lives. And I think if Doha can succeed in that direction, not as the place where a grand bargain was struck, but as a place where another dangerous confrontation was avoided, then I think we're certainly on the right track.
Ma'am Sikri, over to you. Help us understand what specific incentive will convince Iran to have like a direct face-to-face talk with US?
Yeah, I think you're right. Ultimately, such direct talks are going to be necessary because without that, I think the final peace agreement will not be signed. We have to understand that so far we only have a MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, and it has to be converted into a peace deal if it's going to have any chance of longevity in terms of preventing a conflict from arising again. And I think it's only if there is specific progress, then you can, say that, all right, there is specific progress, so we can have direct talks to conclude the documentation. That is when you're going to need the direct talks to conclude the documentation. And so far, this kind of conversation through mediators is really not going to take us very far until both sides accept, okay, now we have progress and now we need to meet face to face. But that position is very far away right now. And will it come closer within 60 days? Because that's the deadline set in the MOU for conclusion of the peace agreement. And the big question mark also is, will there be any further breakdowns? We know there's already been a breakdown over the last 3-4 days, which fortunately has been repaired, and the Doha talks have started, which of course I agree in itself is a very good thing, because talks are always to be preferred to any kind of conflict. Dialogue and diplomacy is the only way out. But given the position of both sides, the Strait of Hormuz is a very important objective for the whole world, that it must be peaceful. Will the world be forced to accept a Strait of Hormuz guided by Iran and Oman collectively. That can have implications for other, like the Malacca Straits and other waterways across the world. So that's one big issue that everybody is watching very carefully. And the main thing on the nuclearization, I think they really are very far apart, because as was pointed out by Ambassador Fabian, the situation on February 27th was quite different. But there's been a total slide back because of the hostilities, and the Iranian position is now much more rigid. So will they be able to move back to where they were on February 27th is a moot point. And in 60 days, I really doubt, because as you said about the unfreezing of assets, that itself is a problem. We do know that Qatar has been sending money to Iran, and that's possibly one of the incentives for Iran to come to these talks. You know that a lot of money has been transferred, whether from their frozen assets or whether from some other head of account, I don't know. But certainly that has been happening. So Iran also, they say they need their reconstruction. There's talk of a $300 billion reconstruction fund for Iran, and that investments will be allowed now. The sanctions on Iranian exports of oil will not be reimposed. So all these ifs are very much on the cards. If they continue as they are, then there could be some hope.
Right. And how can the neighbors in the Middle East play a role to get both the parties on the table? Because, again, opening of the Strait of Hormuz is equally critical for the neighboring states, nation states, as it is for, of course, the US and Iran. So help us understand that, Ambassador Fabian.
Well, as regards the GCC, it is slightly divided. In fact, at one point of time, the UAE was telling Washington, smash Iran into smithereens. And the UAE had also received an Iron Dome from Israel before the hostilities started, but, the dome did not help. And we also know that the last attack on UAE was the 4th of May. And UAE also sent a delegation to Iran. In other words, UAE has realized that there should be a modus vivendi with Iran, and that getting military assistance from Israel or having a US base does not give UAE the necessary security. Now, Saudi Arabia also is having the same mind. Bahrain, of course, has a different approach. Kuwait, I can't say, because it is tilting this way, that way. So, basically, the GCC countries recognize that if the war resumes, Iran will destroy their oil facilities and their desalination, water facilities in no time. So they don't want resumption of war. Now, let's look at the big picture.
Right. Thank you so much. Thanks for your inputs. I'm afraid we are running a little short on time. Thanks for joining us today on ET Now.